Friday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. The NBA has announced the reserves for the All-Star game coming up in a couple of weeks. 2 Cavs have been added to the roster. Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, both named All-Star reserves. They will join Donovan Mitchell, who will be a starter for the Eastern Conference, and Kenny Atkinson, the head coach for the Eastern Conference All-Stars. Garland and Mobley talked about the honor of being named an All-Star.
It was just amazing when I found out. The whole team was there cheering both me and DG on, and it was just a great feeling. We worked real hard to get to this point, and this is my first one, DG's second, so yeah, hopefully more to come.
I think it's a lot. I remember last year around this time I was at home with a jaw wired shut, couldn't eat, couldn't talk. So being here today, it's a blessing, you know. All the hard work put in and sacrifices. And then it's a testament to the team as well. Going 15-0, having a great start like that, and then continue to continue to wins. That helps a lot too. So it's also a team award for all of us.
So both Garland and Mobley named as reserves. Donovan Mitchell a starter. Jarrett Allen still could be under consideration if there are injuries that force another addition to the Eastern Conference squad. Cavs made it 3 in a row in the win column at home yesterday against the Atlanta Hawks, defeating Atlanta for the first time this season. Donovan Mitchell playing some defense, gets the steal, turns it into a quick basket. Take a look, Darius Garland on the drive, and he hits the baseline jumper, falling away. Cavs opening up a pretty big lead in the first quarter. Ty Jerome, little fake, gets the up and under, 3-point play. He had 20 points off the bench again, did Ty Jerome. Mitchell finds Mobley inside. Mobley with the dunk. He had 16 points and 10 rebounds, and it was Donovan Mitchell again doing a lot of the damage. Hits the three-pointer. Donovan Mitchell again for 3 more. He had 24 points, and the Cavs pull away and win it easily over the Hawks for their 3rd win in a row. We turn our attention to the Senior Bowl prospects that the Browns are looking at. Matt Miller, ESPN's NFL draft analyst, on if Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders are kind of a package that come together.
Matt, are you drafting Shedeur Sanders or Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders?
No, you're getting Shedeur. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question. I talked to sources from 3 teams drafting in the top 6, and there are teams that have met with Shedeur, and they've said that he's been pretty adamant that he is his own guy. He's trying to separate himself from, the allure of his dad. So I think Coach Prime's going to be busy running the program at Colorado. I think he's got his hands full with that.
And during the telecast of the East-West Shrine game yesterday, we'll get to those highlights in a minute, Shedeur said that exact same thing, that he is kind of stepping out from Deion's shadow, if you will. One of the quarterbacks who could move into the first round, Jackson Dart, Ole Miss. One of the knocks on him, Ole Miss has a gimmicky offense. Dart talked about that offense as well as what he does well.
We did a little bit of everything, and I thought that each year we kind of catered it to a more pro-style system and, just attack defenses in many different ways. I think that there's a misconception about, our offense, and honestly, the concepts and everything that we do is the exact same that you run in the NFL. But, it was a ton of fun. It was a pleasure working with Coach Kiffin, who, at one time was an NFL coach, and then Coach Judge, who was an NFL coach and spent a lot of time with the Patriots, won Super Bowls, and then my OC, Coach Wise, spending time in the NFL as well. So having those great minds was a lot of fun, and really took a lot from it. From a skill side of things is I'm just happy they're able to watch the tape now since their season's over. But it's really just, my off-the-field intangibles from a leadership standpoint, how hard I study the game, my preparation, and then them just seeing the kind of person that I am and what I'm about.
So it will be the actual Senior Bowl game itself in Mobile, Alabama tomorrow afternoon. Another one of those all-star games, the East-West Shrine Bowl, was played yesterday. Dallas at the home of the Cowboys. And it kind of interesting, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt from Arizona played only one game during the 2024 season due to injury. He had a huge night at the Shrine Bowl. 11 carries, 97 yards, a couple touchdowns, gets the corner there, gets into the end zone for his first touchdown. Krosky Merritt, 5'10 and a half, 206 pounds, was projected to be a day 3 pick in the draft coming off that injury. Looked pretty good. Here's that second touchdown, a nice quick cutback. He did show a lot of moves and a lot of power. Certainly his draft stock wasn't hurt by the performance. Take a look at this spin move in the hole. Just a nice job of avoiding the tackler and getting some extra yardage. Defensive MVP of this game was O'Donnell Fortune from South Carolina. Defensive back, Max Brosmer, quarterback Leighton over the middle off target, and it is picked, and Fortune turns it into a pick 6 as Fortune, the defensive MVP, as the West was shut out in that game, 25-0 the score. We're going to turn our attention to the Cleveland Guardians. So it's kind of interesting. The Guardians, they have 4 of the top 100 prospects in all of baseball, as judged by MLB.com and the pipeline. Number 10 was Travis Bazzana. He's 22 years old. He's a second baseman. He was the number 1 overall pick in the amateur draft last year. Bazzana, compact left-handed swing, quality bat speed, makes excellent swing decisions, leaving him with no obvious weakness at the plate, rarely chases, makes contact with ease, generating upper echelon exit velocities, and produces against lefties and righties all types of pitches. Exceptional bat-to-ball skills overshadow his raw plus power, and he gets to most of it while displaying the ability to drive the ball out of the park to the opposite field. Again, was it high A? Will probably be at double A this year, just 22 years old. 36 on that list is Chase DeLauder, 23 years old. Few players in the minors can match DeLauder's combination of size, 6'3", 235 pounds, athleticism, and the ability to hit for both average and power and plate discipline. Rarely strays from the strike zone, makes repeated hard contact against all types of pitches. Unorthodox left-handed swing that can get long, and he'll get caught on his front foot at times, but bat speed and strength allows him to pull pitches for power and drive them the other way with authority. Had success at AAA. A guy that could impact the Guardians' Major League team as early as this year if he has another spring like he did last year. 60 is Jason Chirio, just 19 years old, switch hitter, more aptitude and power from the left side of the plate, recognizes pitches better than most players his age, and rarely chases. He hits the ball on the ground a lot, so he may be limited at 15, 20 home runs. Listen to this, though. 78 steals in 95 attempts in his first 186 games as a pro. So that would profile him as a potential leadoff hitter. And then Angel Geno, part of Cleveland's seemingly endless supply, switch-hitting middle infielders, strong bat-to-ball skills, proficient from both sides of the plate. More pop as a righty, quick compact stroke, commands the strike zone very well. Fully recovered from his knee injury, and he did a better job using his lower half. Hitting the ball hard last year. Relatively flat swing, may cap his home run output at 15 per season. But again, played in high A as a 20-year-old. Again, a guy that's probably on his way to double A. Again, 62nd ranked prospect. That's in all of baseball as well. So the Guardians, a couple of young middle infielders that profile to be pretty good big leaguers. Still tons of development for both Chirio and as well as Gennaro. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we talk Browns football with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Barbershop Sports4CLE. He'll be right back.
Are you ready? The Ohio Lottery is about to unleash 50 new millionaires on Ohio. Want a chance to become one? Play VIP Millions. With 50 $1 million winning tickets, it's your best chance to win $1 million ever.
Sports4CLE continues. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I think the priority should be to wait it out and sign Cousins after he's released from the Falcons. I would not trade for anyone. I would either sign Flacco or Cousins. And then, in the middle, second, third round range in the draft a Riley Leonard is a much better prospect, and he can be developed under the tutelage of Flacco or Cousins. And then let's go ahead and get the best player available in the first part of the draft. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, someone who's an impact player. But let's quit wasting our time with Milroe, Jackson Dart, Shedeur, and Cam Ward. Those guys are not going to be worth it. And don't trade your picks to try and get some veteran quarterback. That's going to be a bust. Let's not make the same mistakes over and over again. All right, that's my 10 cents worth. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Garrett Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the barbershop as well. And G. Bush, we had a beat reporter on from Atlanta who covered the Falcons who said he didn't think that Cousins would be on the roster with the Falcons when the league year hit. So it'll be interesting. I'm not opposed to Cousins. He also thought they didn't play to Cousins' strengths even a little bit. Said he was great first half of the year, second half of the year he fatigued was his take.
Well, look, I've said this all along, and this is my stance, and we're going to put it out there. Cleveland Browns need a whole new quarterback room. And how they go about putting this quarterback room together is going to be squarely on the shoulders of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and they better not mess it up. If they want to come to me and say that Kirk Cousins is a guy that is going to be a nice little bridge quarterback and a quarterback that can really help some of the young guys and still give you an opportunity to win some games and be a competent quarterback, by all means, go about doing it. Figure it out. I think the money may make sense if the Falcons are going to pretty much pay for him to go away. But you need multiple quarterbacks in this draft. And for me, I approach it like this. I need a veteran at some point, whether that's I don't know if it's Jameis Winston. I don't know if it's Flacco. I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins. Whoever that veteran guy is, you need one of those. 2, you probably need a quarterback within the first 2 rounds. I'm not playing around with nobody in the 4th round or the 3rd round. You need one of those guys high. And I'm going to tell you this. I draft 2 quarterbacks in this draft. I'd learned from what the Washington Commanders did back in the day when they did draft Kirk Cousins. Ironically, we were talking about him. They took RG3 and paid a boatload of picks to take RG3. And then they used a 4th round pick on a Michigan State quarterback named Kirk Cousins. And you know what? People said, why would you do that? Why would they draft? They could have drafted some guys to get RG3 some weapons. And you know what they did? They hedged their bet. That's what bad organizations have to do. You have to hedge your bet. We have not been doing good in putting all our eggs in one basket. And one of the reasons, and I caution people to say this, and you may not think that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward is worth the pick, but let me tell you something. They are not in Jalen Milroe's category. Let's just be clear. Those guys are night and day when it comes to passing the football. I think sometimes we just clump guys together because they're names that we talk about. No, when Jalen Milroe is not a guy who is as competent and is ready to throw the football at a high level than those 2 guys. Jackson Dart is a guy I think is still behind those 2 dudes. I would have him as my 3rd quarterback. Followed by some of the guys that you may listen to. There's a Curtis Rourke. There's Quinn Ewers will come in somewhere in that area. But for me, what I've learned in as much as I would like to have Travis Hunter because I think he's a generational player, I love Abdul Carter. I've watched extensive film on both of those. But the one thing that I get is this: if you ain't got no quarterback and you plan on trying to do something in the AFC. You're in trouble. I don't care if you got Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. You got to find a quarterback. And if I'm the Browns, I'm doubling down on 2 of them.
All right, ESPN's Jake Trotter on what he thinks will likely happen with the Browns early in the upcoming draft.
I think it's increasingly likely that the Browns take a quarterback, but I think it's more, do they talk themselves into Shedeur than do they talk themselves into Milroe?
You think Shedeur is more likely a Brown than
Yes.
Jalen Milroe is?
Yes.
What about Cam Ward?
So Cam Ward has got the better arm. He's got the better tools to work with. Shedeur is not like super toolsy as a quarterback.
Right.
But he is, and he said it, he is a good decision maker. He's tough. And I think he has the potential to be a pretty good leader. And the more I think about it, given that they're going to Kevin's offense, Shedeur might actually be, despite not being as good a prospect in my view as Cam Ward, a better fit. And this is the problem that the Browns are going to face, I think. Do we take the guy who we think is the better prospect, if they're both available? Or do we take the guy that maybe fits Kevin's offense?
G-Bush, I think you take the guy that fits the offense you're going to run. If it is, you're not going to be running that offense. You have another 4, 5, or 6 win season, that offense will be gone with you.
That's the thing. That's the conundrum, the catch-22, so to speak, that we're dealing with. Listen, they don't have the luxury of having a 3 to 4 year plan or a contingency plan. It's not a contingency plan. This is, you got to figure this out. And we'll probably talk about this all off season. The thing that really helps you out a little bit is this. If you get a quarterback and we understand, and we people will know, even if you win 4 or 5 games, right? You win 6 games. There's levels to it, right? If you come out of this season and say Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders wins 5 or 6 games, but he's close in a couple of games. A couple of games he beats a team he ain't supposed to beat. He comes back and shows leadership. He plays a whole healthy 17 games. His dad is a non-factor in terms of all the outside noise. And he looks like he's trending towards, hey, we know we got one right here. We got a guy. That'll save your job. It's levels to what you can do. That right there, now you go into the next season saying, oh, wow, 2 years in Kevin Stefanski's game plan. They know each other better. We got the franchise quarterback. Now we can start filling certain holes. Let's get some weapons. You can save you can put yourself back with another 3 to 5 year trajectory if you hit on the quarterback. What you can't do is this. You can't miss. You can't stop gap and say, hey, we have Abdul Carter and he had 8 sacks, but we was 3 and something. No. You can't say, hey, we had Travis Hunter, but Travis Hunter is upset because you can't get him the football and you won't let him play all the downs he wants to in defense. No. You're going to get fired. These high profile misses you can't have. And so if you got Shedeur Sanders and he's a person, I give Shedeur Sanders credit when it comes to this. One of the things that no one gives him credits for is going from an HBCU, which is a subdivision of Division I, and coming to a program in Colorado that was, I think either they had 1 win or no wins 1 year.
One. Yep.
And came up there and still 1 year, one
Yep,
win?
1 win. Yep.
And still threw for 4,000 yards twice. And the only people that they had was him, Jimmy Horn, and Travis Hunter. That's something to be said for that. So in terms of fitting where it goes, he's been under Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur talks glowingly about how smart he is. He's a mature kid. I think when it comes to it, you can teach him play action. I think he might be right. He may be a better fit with less talent. And it's hard to say that sometimes.
All right, so this is interesting as well. This is an agent's take on 2024 contracts awarded. It's by Joel Curry, who was a player agent a few years ago. This is from CBSSports.com. And best contract extension for a team, he says Jerry Jeudy. Browns acquired Jeudy from the Broncos last March. A 2024 5th and 6th round pick, 3-year, $52.5 million extension, averaging $17.5 million, with 28 fully guaranteed, was quickly signed after the trade. He had a career year, 90 receptions, 1,229 yards, 4 touchdowns to earn his first Pro Bowl selection. And you know, again, we've kind of hammered Andrew Berry for his draft. That was a good move. I had no problem with it when he did it. It turned out to be a great move because he puts up those numbers and you let him get to the open market, it's probably $30 million a year at this point.
Look, I'll give him credit for two things. First of all, he had let Amari Cooper go, and it looked like Amari Cooper is washed at this point. He played with Buffalo. He didn't do anything for Buffalo, and you got, I believe, another third-round pick from Buffalo, which is, and you traded him 4 or 5. You acquired him 4 or 5. You got a 3 back in return. That's more draft capital. You can potentially move, pick those and kind of jumble those picks together, those 2 3s, and you might be able to move yourself up and around to get a quarterback where you didn't expect to. But the Jerry Jeudy contract was brilliant. You say what you want about Andrew Berry. His drafts are, his trades, and his signings are not that bad. He usually gets the most out of his signings. And when you take a look at this was a home run. Jerry Jeudy had a career year, 90 receptions. And I'm going to tell you what, if we didn't have such terrible quarterback play the first 5 or 6 weeks of the year, he could have had, you think of what kind of monster year he could have had, 90 receptions. He could have been 115, 120 catches, almost 1,500 yards if he just gets decent, solid quarterback play. So for me, this was a home run. A lot of people didn't like it. He put up some crazy numbers, and now you go into a position where if you can get another receiver and you can get the quarterback, now all of a sudden you got an offense that is respectable, right? You got a 1 or 1A receiver, however you want to look at it. He's a top flight receiver, and he should be proud of what he did because he was coming off a lot of headaches and a lot of murmurs and people, mischaracterizing his game in Denver for what it's worth. And he showed up here and improved it. He put the numbers on the tape, and that was every penny that was spent was well earned.
All right, so draft analyst Todd McShay talking about a running back. Remember, Browns need a running back. Talking on what he has seen and heard about Travion Henderson from Ohio State.
Travion Henderson, man, he's going early. Like, he might go first round early. Speed, explosiveness, and you want to know what scouts freaking love about this guy? The blocking. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, I was talking to a director of personnel today, and he was like, the blocking. And I was like, just like Zeke. He's like, exactly. He's like, you know what you're getting. You keep him on the field every single play. He doesn't have to come off the field. You see that speed and the way he cuts. And everyone I talk to, it's the same thing. Going to be a better NFL player than a college player in terms of production and consistency. His best football, he's like kind of getting ready to peak. And teams recognize it. Henderson could be RB2, and there's some buzz like, I don't know, he's getting out of round 1.
G-Bush, we've seen him, and think of this. Not a lot of tread on his senior year because you had Quinshon Judkins, who's going to be second, third-round pick as well. So, yeah, I get it. And that blitz pickup, that'll play in the NFL.
I think he served himself well in Chip Kelly's offense this year. Travion Henderson was highly touted. You follow up after J.K. Dobbins, and in the first few years while they were there, it wasn't really an emphasis to run the football like that. Look at some of the receivers he's played with, the Olaves, the Smith and Jigmas, the Marvin Harrisons, and all of those, the Garrett Wilsons. He's played with a lot of those guys. And let's be clear, the running game was not part of what they was trying to do like that. Now, Travion Henderson also has some injuries. It was nicked up here and there, in the first part of the season, first part of his career. But I think that he is really trending towards he's peaking. And like Todd McShay says, he's peaking at the right time. I think he would save some of the tread on the tires while Quinshon Judkins being, one of the running backs that was taking some carries away. And he was fresh. And when you watch the tape against Oregon, when you watched it in the college football playoff, he was running at a different speed. He was playing at a different pace than a lot of people. He was fresh. He was cutting. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. He has great NFL size, bursts. He makes guys miss. Great footwork. The blocking, he's decleating people. He's lifting guys off of their feet. And the thing that I'm going to say about this class, too, it may not be a really great class for receiver or a really great class for quarterback, but if you're looking for a running back, If you're looking for a defensive tackle, they are aplenty. They are out there. Ashton Genty. If it wasn't for him, Travion Henderson would probably be the number one back. And Ashton Genty, that guy is special. I had to watch him. He runs like Zeke Elliott and Trent Richardson. Like but he runs away from you. You can't tackle him. I think this is a special running back class. And guess what? Hey, listen, I'm going to tell y'all right now, right here on Sports4CLE, I wouldn't be mad. I would not be sad at all in round 2 if the Cleveland Browns said, give me one of these running backs. I wouldn't be mad at all. I'm going to just tell you that right now. Don't tell me you can't take it back that high. Trust me, I would not be mad at all.
You know what? I'd take 2 of them. Take one of them high, take one of them late, because we need some running backs. You need to remake that room just like the quarterback room. G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
You know, with the national media and even Andrew Berry, it kind of sounds like we're going to draft Shedeur Sanders. I'm all for getting Shedeur Sanders. Looking at his highlights, I think he has a great arm. I think if we're going to draft him, I think that the Browns need to take a cue from what the Texans did and get the ball out of Shedeur's hands fast. If we're going back to Stefanski's offense, Stefanski has to scheme up the play action, and he has to get that ball out quick.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. G. Bush, we are hearing more of that, but again, this is silly season where nobody's going to tell you what they're doing, and if the Browns think he can be their starting quarterback for the next 5-10 years, then you take him at number 2 without question.
This is the referendum on Kevin Stefanski. Like, look, we talked all year. We said Kevin Stefanski, didn't have an opportunity. He really didn't want to let Alex Van Pelt go. Dorsey was forced on him. He didn't really want to give play calling up. He never really wanted to go to the vertical passing and all that good stuff. We've been told that, he was hamstrung. The front office wouldn't let him do certain things. And for all intents and purposes, we've seen that he's taking back the offense. We've seen he's being more vocal. He'd already told you he's calling the plays. He's got, his guys around him. They made an internal hire and promotions with Musgrave and Tommy Reese. Now it seems like he's circling the wagons. For me, the tea leaves could read, hey, we're going to take a quarterback. But given the fact that the Cleveland Browns have the first pick in the second round, the question is, do they like the quarterbacks enough to take them at 2? Or do you feel like there's a small enough gap in the quarterback between Shedeur Sanders and the second or third guy, right? Because if you feel like, hey, we like Shedeur Sanders, but we also like Will Howard. We also like Jackson Dart. We also like Curtis Rourke. We also Dylan Gabriel. There's a bunch of other guys. Just throw the names in there. And then they may say, well, look, we got an opportunity to take the best available. Maybe it's an Abdul Carter. Maybe it's Travis Hunter. And if they believe that those guys are going to fall to second, they still have an opportunity to take a guy at 33. So it's all about where they like the guy and how much they like him. But one thing's for sure. If you like somebody and you feel like they're the best for what you want to do, I don't even care if it's Cam Ward. If the Cleveland Browns decide that Cam Ward is the guy that they feel like is the only quarterback for them and that's the guy they want, by all means, package something and go up to number 1 and take Cam Ward if you want to. Yep. The whole referendum for me is, you guys have 1 year to make this thing beautiful and work.
Yep.
You better do it.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes, Let's do it.
Yep, you better fall in love with quarterback, and if you do, take him. And if not, you got to say that you love him because you want to be overwhelmed with a reason to trade down to 6, 8, 9, and then still get somebody that you like. Along those lines, Ian Rappaport, national NFL reporter, NFL. This is from NFL Game Day. Who could be the third quarterback taken in the draft, and what range does he sneak into relative to what round?
I was in Mobile, I was watching the practices. Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, seemed to have a really good couple days. And to me, based on the people I've spoken with, seems right now to have maybe the inside track, I would say, to be the third quarterback taken. You talk to the scouts, talk to the general managers, where does he fit in? They say, probably somewhere in, middle of the first round. Okay, well, we've seen this before. If you're middle of the first round now, by the time we get to the draft, when it's the quarterback-needy teams, you're probably a little higher. We've seen all these guys get pushed up. This time last year, Bo Nix was being talked about as a second-rounder, and he went 12. So we know the quarterbacks always go much earlier. Really solid week in Mobile for Jackson Dart. And we're going to get to Indianapolis before we know it. And you're going to see some of the other guys who are in competition for that, the Quinn Ewers and Will Howard. I mean, it's going to be intriguing how this all plots out.
Yeah, and we heard from Dart earlier in the show, G. Bush. He's looked good. The knock against him was a gimmicky offense, but it was a gimmicky offense run by an NFL guy in Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. You could go back to his junior year, and they ran the ball a lot with the quarterback and different things, and he was on the same team as Quinshon Judkins, and I thought it was kind of a zonky little offense. But make no bones about it. You go back and watch this tape from this year. Listen, he's making throws. I mean, these throws is on the money. Go back. I watched the bowl game. I believe they played Duke, and he was on the money the whole time. I mean, my dad called me and said, "Hey man, who's this Jackson Dart guy? It's nice." I said, "Yeah, man." I had to go back. I had to take a look at him back at USC to see if it's like, where did this guy come from? Transfer from USC, goes out to Ole Miss, and one thing that you can't deny, he's played top-notch talent. He's playing the Georgias. He's playing the Alabamas. He's playing the Floridas and the SEC. He's playing in that conference, and he's a good athlete. If you ask me, he's a better athlete than Shedeur Sanders. He's pretty good at everything. He has good arm strength, good accuracy, good athleticism. He's a good decision maker. Good leader. Like, I think he is just overall, he's one of those guys you can really fall in love with, because you start to see, like, man, this guy, sometimes when he's just good at everything, sometimes you're underrated a little bit. Like, case in point, Jalen Milroe. This is, to me, he's the Anthony Richardson of this draft. Anthony Richardson had way worse tape than Jalen Milroe. Anthony Richardson had way less competition and played way less downs as a college quarterback. And you see, he went in the first round, right? When they see them 40-yard times, I think you're gonna see Jalen Milroe moved up from where he should be, probably a 4th or 5th rounder. So I think he's a guarantee to go in the top 2 rounds just off the physical traits. Somebody's going to convince themselves that they are the quarterback whisperer that can get it done. But for me, right now, I've always felt Jackson Dart is, people say 3rd round, he'll never make it that far. He's going to be in the 1st round. I said it weeks ago. He's going to be the 3rd quarterback taken off the board. And do not be surprised. Let me tell you this right now. This is a bombshell. Guys, do not be surprised if a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers says, "Hey, we had Big Ben before. What about Will Howard? What about Will Howard later on?" And the Steelers, that's what they need. He's fiery. He's a big kid, good arm. He'll fit right in the Rust Belt. And I'm telling you, if you're banking on getting Will Howard, teams like Seattle, teams in the back of the draft, the 1st round, early 2nd, he's not going to be available. I'm letting you that right now. There's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken. It's just about who it will be at the 3rd and 4th quarterback positions.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the one thing about Jackson Dart, we've seen it in Senior Bowl practices. I saw it. I watched the same bowl game you referenced. Wears out the middle of the field, and he's accurate throwing into coverage in the middle of the field. That plays to tight ends, and that'll play with slot receivers and everything in the NFL. A lot of accuracy middle of the field for Dart.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Especially the way you like to play. Watch where Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and those guys, they kill you in the middle of the field with those tight ends and vertical routes. He's very accurate. I think he's a good prospect, and I think he'll go early.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
G. Bush, make sure you're checking him out. It's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, a Monday through Friday, 11 to 1. He is also the host of The Barbershop. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns with Jacob Roach. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns and draft on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report. So, Jacob, I know you've had a bunch of mailbag questions. Do you think the Browns go best available at number 2, or do you trade back?
It's definitely the biggest question they'll face until they get to April, and it is a giant talking point. I kind of tend to lean towards taking best available as opposed to trading back. But if you're talking about getting a future first-round pick and maybe only going back to like 6 or 7, I think you can still kind of get a blue chipper there if you trade with the Raiders or with the Jets. I'm a big Abdul Carter fan, and I would absolutely love to have him here opposite Myles Garrett. So for me, I tend to say, hey, stick to 2. But if you get, a team's second-round pick that's in the high 30s as well, and then a future first-round pick and maybe then some, and you still get, I don't know, like a Mason Graham or a Ted McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona or something like that, I think that might be too good to pass up. So right now I lean best available player, but that's without knowing how good the trade package might be.
So there's some talk as of late that it could be Shedeur Sanders that the Browns identify as the answer at number 2 overall. Do you think he solves the Browns' quarterback woes?
I actually have a second round grade on him. So for me, if you're going to take Shedeur, I wouldn't be taking him at number 2. I just don't see anybody who has any elite physical tools or traits in terms of playing the quarterback position. I think he's got tremendous ball placement. He's probably the most accurate passer you're going to get in this class, but I think his arm is very average. I think that he kind of tries to go big play hunting a little bit too much when he's kind of an average athlete, average arm. He runs around. He takes sacks that are 20 plus yards where he just keeps going backwards and backwards. And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Go down, throw the ball on the ground, take an intentional grounding, something. Don't go from losing 6 yards to take 30 yards. And he's tough as nails, but I think he's going to come in around 200 pounds, which is even smaller than DTR. And we've seen the durability concerns of DTR in a couple of years, and he hasn't played very much. I don't see the skill set from Shedeur of a top 10 quarterback. And if I'm going in the top 2, I'm looking for someone that's got the kind of arm talent, the kind of overall talent that can be an elite passer. And yeah, he's got elite, ball placement, and he's a smart guy for the most part, but he tries to do too much, doesn't really have a big arm. There's just really nothing that wows you by him. And for me, I'm just kind of out on it.
So, again, from your mailbag, aside from quarterback, you also put in offensive line. Other major areas that need to be upgraded, as a consensus when you look at this roster and you look at the draft.
Yeah, I think running back and tight end are probably the top two that you'll get from a lot of people after the quarterback and the offensive line. You've got Jerome Ford and really not much else on the roster at the running back position. And you got a class, like I'm updating my rankings that'll come out next week on the OBR, but you've got a class where I think there's 15 or 16 guys in this running back class that I think are going to be quality contributors in the NFL for 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, you can talk about getting a starter in the 5th round of this class. And I've talked to some people, some of my colleagues at the OBR, some of the other draft people I've talked to that think, it might be a smart idea to grab 2 of these guys, maybe get you a power back early and a scat back receiver, to be that change of pace later. You may be able to, snag a couple of them. You maybe even just take both Ohio State guys and just do it in one shot and just get both of them and kind of go from there. But I think you have an opportunity to take a room that really doesn't have much in it outside of Jerome Ford. And Nick Chubb probably comes back. I feel like he comes back, but you don't have a long-term answer there. And there's just so many answers here in that tight end class as well. Maybe not as star-studded after Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, but there's some guys there, some Mason Taylor, Gunnar Helm. There's a lot of names in that group that I think can be the future and really help you. Because if you're going back to that Kevin Stefanski wide zone scheme, you're going to look at a lot of 12 person. You're going to look a lot of extra tight ends on the backfield, on the line of scrimmage, especially to try to build up that run game again. So getting that running back and getting some more help to, at tight end would make a lot of sense.
So this one, again, is from your draft mailbag. Which guy that played in the Shrine game, so that was the game that took place yesterday, do you most want to see as a Cleveland Brown?
On the Shrine side of things, it's the defensive tackle Jordan Phillips from Maryland. I just think does a lot of really good things, kind of explosive off the line of scrimmage, some heavy hands and some things like that. I just think this team's got to kind of figure out something a little bit more at defensive tackle. Dalvin Tomlinson, as well as Michael Hall, kind of the future there. But, the Shrine Bowl kind of gets overshadowed a little bit by the Senior Bowl. A lot of big names I like at the Senior Bowl. But, at the Shrine Bowl, I think there was some more talent in the trenches. And I think Jordan Phillips, the D tackle, makes a lot of sense there.
So who do you think could be like a late round gem for the Browns?
Been on Upton Stout, the corner from Western Kentucky, for a little while. You're talking about a guy that he moved inside to nickel. He's played, I believe he's been a 4-year starter down there, played outside corner pretty well. They end up moving him into nickel, and he took a massive jump forward when they moved him into nickel. Kind of smaller, comes into the Senior Bowl 5'8", 178 pounds. So you're looking at a guy that he can struggle with some of the more physical guys, but he does not play 178 pounds. He doesn't play 5'8". Measurables wise, he's smaller than me, but I would not in any way, shape, or form try to take this guy on, because he's got a mauler mentality. He loves playing in that nickel, and he just makes so many plays in the run game. I've seen some people say at 178, 5'8", maybe you move him to strong safety or move him into the backfield. I know PFF has kind of talked about thinking maybe he's projected better as a safety, but he's got just that mentality that you think really thrives in a Jim Schwartz system. He comes crashing downhill, reckless abandon, doesn't really care about his body when he's throwing it in there at offensive linemen and running backs. And I just think he has a really nice mean streak. And I think he's a nice twitchy athlete who I think can keep up with those short area explosive guys in the slot.
All right, so you did a mock draft. We'll take a look at a couple of the picks. First, at first round, second pick overall, you go Cam Ward. Tools to become a franchise quarterback, ceiling among the league's best if he can get there. Great arm talent. So when you look at Ward, and the thing that scares me about Ward, I know he has a high ceiling. Man, his floor is awfully low. There's a wide variance in the range of outcomes here.
Yeah, and that's why, the week before this mock draft, I did a full in-depth draft profile on Cam Ward, and I said all these nice things, and at the end I even said I would still hesitate to take him at 2 because these lows and the concerns in that floor, it's kind of terrifying. I mean, there's a lot of Jameis Winston comps. I think he's a better athlete than Jameis was coming out of Florida State, but there's a lot of those comps. And after having seen that, I know a lot of Browns fans are going to be like, oh, I just saw that, I don't really want to go there. But for me, when I was looking at this quarterback class and looking about the idea of taking one there at 2, I'm looking at these guys in the playoffs these last couple of weeks, and my thing is you got to have a special arm talent. I think some kind of special talent that can put you amongst the elite if you really want to compete for a championship. And I think that Cam Ward's pure arm talent. Now, I'm not talking about overall quarterback play, exactly who he is completely as a player, but as arm talent, I think he comes into the league around top 10. I think he has that special of an arm. Now, like you said, the floor is very low. There is a lot of, if you look up the definition of gunslinger, you are going to find his picture in the dictionary. Like there's a lot of and some of his good plays he is not going to get away with in the NFL. So there's a lot of coaching there, some sloppy footwork. He likes to bail a little bit too early out of structure. But I did think he took some major steps in structure this year at Miami. I think he continued to get better even as his 5th year as a collegiate starter. But my thing is I'm still very hesitant there, and I still lean Abdul Carter. But if you're like, hey, we know we can coach up some of those mental sides of things, the physical tools are off the charts with Cam Ward.
All right, second round, you haven't taken a defensive tackle, Walter Nolan from Mississippi. 30 quarterback pressure, 6 sacks, pressure, a pass win rate, 10.9%. What do you like about him?
Well, don't I look smart because he then went and dominated some early Senior Bowl. And every once in a while I get one right. He goes and has a really good Senior Bowl. He's so sudden and explosive off the line of scrimmage. And you talk about, a lot of times with defensive linemen, we really talk about the pass rush and stuff. He's 290, somewhere in that range. He's a little bit undersized for the fact that he's actually a dominant run defender as well. He's just so powerful and strong and quick where he can shoot double teams, fly through the gap, whether it's to make a play against the run or to rush the quarterback, pushing things vertically. I think his skill set would really, I had talked to a friend of mine, Bill Sparks, a draft analyst, who had said, I think I like getting a defensive tackle more than an edge because instead of the guy being on the other side of Myles Garrett, he's right next to him. And they're both these kind of special, explosive, off the line athletes that can do some really good things. I just think that he's got a relentless motor, good athleticism, hands. His technique is really good with his hands. And I think if you can develop a little bit more pass rush counters, because a lot of times if he doesn't win with his quickness and he tries to shoot the gap and swipe the offensive lineman's hands away, if he gets caught up, he doesn't really have a ton of counters. So I think you need to kind of work on him. But I think that's something Jim Schwartz could take care of.
All right. Before we let you go, we're going to take a look at your 4th round pick. In the 3rd round, you haven't taken a tackle and a safety. 4th round pick, a running back, Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. What is it that when you look at Hunter, you kind of mentioned explosive running back, quickly reaches top speed. What does he project like, do you think, in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm a really big fan in these wide zone scheme of guys that have good visions and patience. And I think that Jarquez Hunter has those sorts of things. I look at like early 2020 and stuff like that, like what the Browns were doing with Nick Chubb and the way that you need in that system, you need your blocks to set up, and you need the running back to understand what's happening in front of him in a quick manner and then to take advantage of those things. And I think Hunter does that. Around 200 pounds. But I think he has enough contact balance to where if you just try to, lower your shoulder and knock him over, he does a good job to recover and not just go down with an arm tackle or something of that nature. But I think he just really fits this scheme where he's smart and just patient, and he sees the lane, and his acceleration is just really quick. So there it is. Got to go. I'm out the door. And I think he would just fit really well in the scheme.
Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. Really good draft analysis. He will continue to do mock drafts and profiles. Check him out, the Orange and Brown Report. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, film breakdown, video analysis of some of the secondary level of quarterbacks. Lance Reisland, straight ahead. Stay with us. Full Court Action is a half hour devoted exclusively to men's and women's basketball from across the Mid-American Conference. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bacon. Join me at 6:30 Tuesday nights, and we'll meet the coaches and players from the Mid-American Conference who are making an impact in basketball. Full Court Action will spotlight the top plays and performances from all across the Mid-American Conference with some historical action as well. Catch Full Court Action Tuesday nights at 6:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We turn our attention to a film breakdown video analysis of some of the quarterbacks not in the first couple of rounds of the draft. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. So, Lance, these are late day 2, day 3 guys that you think could end up developing and being not necessarily from the Browns, but somebody in the NFL. And the first one is a guy that, in talking to you, I know you like, Dillon Gabriel. Saw him in the college football playoff with Oregon. 6 foot, 202 pounds. What do you see when you look at Gabriel?
Well, first of all, he makes a lot of really good throws. So here's going to read a man bracket coverage. He's going to see his receiver even. Obviously, the old term, you're even, we're leaving. He does a really good job of anticipation, understanding where it's going to be. Now, the one thing he struggles with is when he gets off rhythm, right? So he's got to reset his feet. Sometimes his feet will be wrong, and he doesn't step into his throws. Now, you know, you're talking about a guy who played for 3 high-level schools and threw for 18,000 yards and 155 touchdowns. So the production is there. Threw the ball very well at Senior Bowl. Be interested to see how, obviously, his pro day, some things are going to be very important for Dillon Gabriel. I really, really like this guy. In fact, this guy's number 3 on my board, and I try to just keep it to what I see on film. And obviously, there's some hesitation because of his height, and I. That's right. That's a fair assessment. But this guy makes all the throws, and I really like the throws he makes within that 15 to 25 yard, those chunk plays that you need a lot of in the NFL. I thought he played really good against high-level competition. When they beat the Buckeyes early in the season, I thought he played really well. And then, as you and I were talking about, I thought he played really well after a rough start in the playoff game. So just a guy I'm really high on. I love his mechanics. I love his moxie. I think he's a guy who's going to be a really good pro, either as a starter or as a backup, but he's going to be a very high contributor to some NFL team.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, played a lot of college football, was at Oklahoma before Oregon, so a guy who has seen plenty of coverages at the college level. Number 2 is a guy that's intriguing, Curtis Rourke, 6'5", 231, played at Indiana, led them to the college football playoff, and we found out after the fact, played with a torn ACL most, if not all, of the season.
Well, I've watched a lot of film on him from both. So you're going to see here he's got man coverage on a rail route from the back. He's got to look that safety off right there. So he does a really good job of looking that safety in the middle, then delivering a really catchable football. Now, he played really well to OU, and then this is what he struggles with sometimes. Figuring out where the blitz is coming from and making sure he extends time in the pocket. So again, going back to this first throw, really impressed with his ability to diagnose man coverage here and knowing who he has to look off because he knows their outside receiver is going to pick that running back's guy. Now, we go back to here, you're going to see a 3-over-2 blitz from the Buckeyes here. So they're going to bring that slot nickel back. He's got to do a better job of understanding where his hots are and getting rid of the football. In Kurt Segnetti's offense, a lot of rhythm, a lot of pace. He's got to do a good job of continuously getting to that second, third progression. But I like this guy at OU. He runs the ball better. Obviously, he had a knee injury, like you said. He's got really good feet within the pocket. He's big. He kind of fits that mold of what you want an NFL quarterback to look like, right? The Peyton Manning, 6'5", 230, can take a hit, processes information very well. This is more of a fit for the Browns. Him and Gabriel are very good on structure within the pocket. Those are things Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees like. So he's not a guy who's going to improvise much, but he's a guy who can play well within structure and can make all the throws. I think this guy's going to be a good pro.
Yeah, the other thing with him, because of the injury, he can't do as much as the NFL teams would like relative to the leading up to the combine, at the combine. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of it's going to be based on evaluation from when he played. The third guy is an interesting one in Quinn Ewers, 6'2", 210 pounds. What did you see from Ewers?
Well, here's the guy who makes a lot of plays. So, again, he's going to get man coverage here against the Buckeyes, and he's going to take his running back and a linebacker. He did this twice against the Buckeyes. So this is a really Quinn Ewers is really, really intriguing to me. There is very few guys. I try to talk to as many people, smarter people than me in terms of breaking down film. And same kind of thing with Quinn Ewers. People have him as a first or second round grade and then as a free agent grade. And the reason why is because, first of all, he makes throws like this, where he's going to read the back and he's going to make a very catchable ball. But the one thing he doesn't get, sometimes he doesn't have really good pocket awareness, and he doesn't step into his throw, and sometimes he doesn't drive the football. So the ball doesn't come out. So he doesn't protect the ball very well sometimes in the pocket, and then sometimes he doesn't drive it when he needs to. He's a guy that needs to use his whole body with the throw, which is fine. A lot of quarterbacks do, but he can't get back on his back foot because then he doesn't have enough whip in that arm. But once again, he's a guy who highly recruited out of high school, went to Ohio State, obviously, couldn't beat out C.J. Stroud, went to Texas. Sarkisian does a great job with NFL concepts, highs and lows, so he can make all these throws he understands defense. He's just got to protect the ball better, and he's got to play with a better sense of urgency within the pocket to be able to step into those throws and make those 15 to 20-yard throws that I think Dylan Gabriel does very well.
Yeah, with Ewers, there's a lot of inconsistency. The good plays were really good, and the bad plays were really bad, and that doesn't cut it when you're an NFL quarterback.
Well, a lot of that, very, very much like Jackson Dart without the turnovers. Jackson Dart is him and Ewers are the two hottest guys. Very few guys get as hot as those two, but very few guys get as cold as those two. And like you said, you can't have that in the NFL. You got to have consistency. You got to take those checkdowns. Can't always look for the home run. Quinn Ewers is an interesting guy for day 3. I believe he'll be a day 3 guy, but a guy, again, a lot of talent, understands defenses, and if you get with the right guy to get his fundamentals down, he's a guy who could be has a pretty good upside.
The other, our fourth guy of the 4 that we're going to look at later round picks of quarterbacks, Kyle McCord, 6'3", 220 pounds. What did you see with McCord?
Well, there's 2 things. First of all, McCord, this is against when he's at Ohio State last year against Notre Dame. He can make all the throws now. He's a 6'3", 220-pound guy. And like the rest of the guys, very experienced. Now, here's what he does poorly. He locks on. So you're going to see Pittsburgh does a nice job of showing cover 2, but actually being in a 2-man where they're going to have 2 safeties and then man coverage underneath. Again, you're going to see here at 6'3", 230, he can really throw the ball from the pocket. He's not much of a guy who improvises. He's not much of a guy who's going to throw off schedule or throw from different arm angles, but he is a guy who can make all the throws. And you see there, he had a bunch of picks against Pitt, and what he does is he locks in. And that usually means he's processing what he sees, and then when the defense changes, he's not doing a great job of after the snap. However, when you watch this guy this year at Syracuse, I watched a bunch of throws in the last couple of days. He plays really well and makes a lot of NFL throws, the outs, the digs, the deep bang 8s where over the middle of the field. Those NFL throws off of deep drops, a lot of what Kevin Stefanski likes. So this is a guy who I think can be very good. All 4 of these guys have a lot of experience and played a lot of college football. And you can see with Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, guys who have had some success, especially Jaden Daniels. That experience is important when you get to the NFL. That's the old Bill Parcells model. You got to play some college football to be good in the NFL, and I agree with that.
Yeah, the concern obviously is with the processing, because that's a key. You have to be able to process, you have to be able to make decisions, you have to be able to do it quickly. And that was when McCord struggled, as you pointed out, those were the things he struggled with.
Well, yeah, when you watch him on film, the thing I see is that, like, on that particular play, if he thinks it's cover 2, that's a really good thought process, because the corner to that bottom side drops, and then he feels like he's going to be able to work off that linebacker. And he would be if he doesn't lock in. So if he just keeps his eyes down the middle of the field, we always talk about keeping your eyes down the middle of the field so those guys can't anticipate where you're going. I just think he's got to learn to use his eyes to manipulate. He's got to understand that in the NFL, you're going to get a lot of post-snap stuff that's different than pre-snap. Those are things you can learn, though. Can't teach arm strength. He can make all the throws. He's got pretty big hands. He steps into his throws. He's a guy who's got some weight on him, so he can take the beating that he'll get at the NFL level. I don't know. I just think he's a guy. When I look at my chart, he's a guy that is kind of creeping up more and more because of what you watch on film.
So we know that the Browns are likely to remake their entire quarterback room. Could you see them taking a guy early and then a guy they have so many picks, 6th, 7th round, or if one of these guys, that has played a lot of college football doesn't get drafted as an undrafted free agent, where you're bringing in 2 rookies essentially that have a lot of experience?
Well, there's 2 things that I always think about with a quarterback. First of all of us there's a lot of guys out there who are smarter than me when breaking down film, and me included. You just don't know in the NFL. One of the things about the quarterback position compared to any other position is you just don't know. That it factor, that ability to play in front of the NFL crowds against NFL-like type defenses with the speed. You just don't know which guys have the it factor. You don't know what their practice habits are. You don't know how they take care of their bodies as they become grown men. How do they handle getting money? That all ties into it at the NFL. And there's no other position besides quarterback. If you look at the position especially since 2011, it's a crapshoot from 1st round to the 7th round. So I think you got to take guys that you think you can fit in your system, guys that you think that their weaknesses are things that you can improve. You can't really improve arm strength. You can't improve certain things, but you can improve the ability to process. You can improve the ability to make certain throws. You can't improve arm talent. You can't improve, if you can't see it and things like that. So I don't know if they'll take 2, but I know there will be a guy that's taken higher that won't be successful, and there will be a guy taken in the later rounds who will be successful because he has that it factor and he gets in the right system with the right coaches and makes good decisions about off the field, how he trains, how he takes care of his body, what he does. There'll always be a guy. Quarterback position is a crapshoot, and unfortunately the Browns are in a position where they got to find a guy who can win right now. I don't know if that's in the draft, but we'll figure out here coming very soon.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis. And remember, Senior Bowl coming up over the weekend. We'll see how Dillon Gabriel and the rest of the guys that the Browns are looking at do in the Senior Bowl. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.